Hello everyone, welcome to part 3, and this is going to be the lessons learned from starting a tutoring business. In the last 2 videos we used this 8-step process from this Forbes Advisor website to walk us through the steps in creating a business, and I shared how I followed each step. And I actually did a pretty good job, if I may say so. And at this point, we went all the way down to the marketing plan. Money was being spent on marketing. So what were the lessons learned? And why do I say that this was a failed business? And I'm going to go ahead and literally just go step by step, and this will keep me organized and on track as I go through and share the lessons learned. So I'm going back to the first one. So step 1, have the right mindset. Now, fortunately, this was, I would say, a positive. This was good. I was on track here, remembering that this was going to be a journey. So I had the mindset all set and I had the consistency. This was in place. I wasn't discouraged by the process as I went through it. So I was highly motivated. I had the right mindset and I went and took the next step. And this is something that I think is very important. And it was one of the reasons that even though this business was a flop, it was one of the reasons I was happy that I did it, is because it's easy to start something and then just give up on it. So I wanted to make sure I followed it all the way through. It was an exciting, although costly, it wasn't an experiment. It was an actual business. And this step 1, I feel that I did very well. I had the right mindset. I was ready to go. And I was fully motivated to do what was needed to be done. All right, so going to refining the business idea, this I would also say I did pretty well. This was out of all the steps, actually out of all the steps, I think maybe 2 and 3 were the best 2 steps that I took. In terms of really going in and making sure that I was going to do something that I was comfortable with, that I was knowledgeable about, and that would truly make a difference in the lives of children, that I stick by 100% that the idea was a great idea. And again, it was building on a strength that I have and a desire to help other people. So in terms of having that business idea and refining it to something that I know would keep me motivated, I would say that that was in the green area. And then knowing the competitors and the market, this I would say I did another pretty decent job. What I learned though was that the amount of research that you do is critical to your success, or will be critical to your success overall. When you're thinking about your business, whether you're thinking about one that you're going to manage yourself or if you're going to have employees, it's important that you think about, okay, for the amount of time that's going in, what would be my potential return? And I don't mean the potential return in a month, 3 months, 6 months. I mean years down the line. Because running or planning a business and running a business is something that will, depending on the business, come to fruition in terms of your profits years down the line. Most businesses don't start off as easy money. So in this area, I would say I had the research down. I knew what the competition was charging for the tutoring to parents, and I also knew what they were paying their employees. So this was a great thing on my end. Like I said, I had a plan to use independent contractors. A lot of research was being done in that area. All right, so creating the business plan. Again, this was another area that I thought was pretty solid. I had the why, right? They always say start with the why. So I had the why. I'd done the market analysis. I'd looked at the organizational structure. I had my mission, my vision. I had my service. I would say, again, this was number 4. I think I did a pretty good job with this one. All right, so you're probably wondering, okay, where did it go wrong? And here is where the whole thing went wrong. This is where the entire thing from steps 5, 6, 7, and 8 is where I cringed, right? I was happy when I read through the first 4. I said, okay, I was doing something right. But the last 4, I executed horribly. Now, here's why. In order to form an LLC in the state in which I live and in most states in the United States, there's a fee that you have to pay. So there's a cost to it. And this is where I would say if you're starting a business and you can make it all the way up to step 4, I would say that step 5 is truly a decision point. Now, it was not a mistake doing the research on these business structures and knowing which one I would go with. However, where the mistake was made was in setting up and organizing the business prematurely. And what I mean by that is that you see here where it says LLC, you always hear people talking about the tax benefits of businesses. There's another option here, which is the sole proprietorship. Okay? And I'm going to read it word by word because it's very important to understand the difference. And again, this isn't financial advice, but it is helpful to understand just at a general level. It says if you start a solo business, you might consider a sole proprietorship. The company and the owner for legal and tax purposes are considered the same. The business owner assumes liability for the business, so if the business fails, the owner is personally and financially responsible for all business debts. Okay? And then for the LLC, I'll just read that one. It limits your personal liability for business debts. LLCs can be owned by one or more people or companies and must include a registered agent. These owners are referred to as members. Now, when I'm thinking about my business, or thinking about the tutoring company, it really was going to be a company run by me. And to get started, I should have just considered myself a sole proprietorship. And this is not something you have to claim. This is just you saying, hey, I want to do business activity as an individual. If you run an Etsy store or an eBay store or eBay, I guess it would be a store, you're considered a sole proprietor. You're pretty much the person doing the business. And if something goes wrong, you would be liable for it. And then you'd have to pay taxes and all of that. Similar to LLC though, right? There's reporting requirements and accounting that has to be done. So the difference is really just in terms of liability. Now, starting a virtual tutoring company, sure, there's things that could go wrong. However, this is, again, where I acted prematurely. Although I wanted to create that distance between myself and the business, at the time, I did not actually have anything. So at the time, I just had an idea, a web page, handbooks. I had people willing to do some of the work, but I did not even have a customer. And again, I know it really depends on the type of business you're doing. If you're talking about a retail business or something where there could be a lot of liability, you definitely need to have an LLC. However, if you're doing something that's kind of in the realm of this type of experimental, or you're, working maybe on teacher pay teacher or something small, you do not need to have an LLC. You just need to act as a sole proprietor, which is pretty much do business as yourself. And if there's very little in the way of liability, stick to the sole proprietorship. Okay? So that's where it started to go wrong. Then where it says register and take care of paperwork, in a similar way, choosing the business name, right? So that had to be registered when the LLC was established, filing the paperwork through the state, applying for the EIN number, and that's done at the federal level. That's done through the IRS, right? So now I had an EIN number, so I felt like, I was good to go. But again, no customers. I did not even have, at the time, a phone call. So what was nice was that I had a business, so it didn't flop. The business never flopped in concept. I guess what it was is almost like a rocket taking off. It never launched. Sure, I had the things out there, and the structure was perfect, but the business never launched. So I went to the bank, opened my business account, I funded it with some money, made transactions to pay for my software and accounting, made transactions to pay for my advertisement, paid for my website monthly fee, paid for people to work on the website. Good to go there. But again, there was no customers or anything. So a lot of these steps, which took time, really were a waste of time. And I'll talk about that in a second. Then we go to the funding of the business. And this one, I will give myself a check mark here because fortunately, I did not take on any loan to complete this business, right? But one thing to remember is that when you're starting a business, you can never really anticipate how well it's going to do. Your business may take off or it may struggle a little bit, right? Lots of businesses open and close all of the time. So the idea of how you fund your business is going to have implications in your life. Unless you have a very, very, very solid idea, or maybe you've done this before, maybe you work for a company and you found success and you're ready to branch off on your own, that's one thing. When you're starting with some type of an experimental idea or something you want to try, I would say you would want to use the money you have. And I would also say that you would want to keep your expenses as low as possible. As you saw on the thumbnail, I invested over $4,000 starting this tutoring company. And how you may say, well, thing is, it's a little fee here, a little fee there. And before you know it, it really adds up. So at this point, I have $4,000 in the company. It's funded. Fortunately, I didn't have anybody on payroll, but I was ready to rock and roll, and I was ready to market the business. Like I said before, Facebook, they offer ads that could be targeting people in the local area, as well as Google, and there's obviously Nextdoor and just other places where you can run ads. Now, this is where it got interesting, though. I was able to run ads, and I spent hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on ads for the tutoring business. And what's interesting is I got, I think, maybe 2 or 3 phone calls, and none of them panned out. And in reflecting, the reason they didn't pan out, and this was something I did not anticipate, was the reason it didn't pan out is because although I was offering a tutoring service, when parents are looking to have their child tutored, a lot of them would just go with the companies that they're familiar with. Now, as an educator and doing some of the research that I was able to do, I knew that I would be able to provide a superior product or a superior service to parents. However, it's the reason that people go to the store and they buy brand names, right? They're going to go with what they know. The idea of working with a startup, even though there's a website and ads on Facebook, while it makes you look official, there's definitely some hesitation on the parts of your clients. And this was a lesson that I had to learn the hard way. So I would say after about a month of marketing out there and just paying out the wazoo with ads and realizing that I would have to spend pretty much 3 to 4 hours a day after work organizing and doing things for this business, I decided to call it a day. Well, actually, it wasn't that easy. I actually decided that I would let the website run for the duration of the subscription. And again, so I let it run for about 6 months, and it went, again, very few bites, if you will. And at the end, I just said, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take it offline, if you will. So I still have all of the material, and it's still pretty much, I could launch it again tomorrow. But I want to leave you with just one of the biggest takeaways that I learned, and I wish I learned it without spending the money. You read about it all the time, but of course, you know, sometimes you think that it's going to be different this time or different for you. And the biggest takeaway that I had or have, if you're thinking of starting a business, is that in order to start a business, it really takes a lot of times limited to no money to launch your business. I'll say that again. It takes oftentimes limited to no money to launch your business. And just this knowledge, if you apply it, can be very freeing. If you have a business idea and you're thinking about these 8 steps and you're thinking about how you have to form an LLC and you have to do this and do that and the other, the beautiful part is you can run a proof of concept for your business idea, and you really could do it for free for the majority of business ideas out there to see if it's going to work. In my case, as an educator, what I should have done, the $4,000 tuition that I paid to learn this lesson, is I should have created a Google page, which is free. I should have shared it on my personal Facebook page or business Facebook page. I should have reached out to people, and I should have gotten an idea for the appetite of what was out there. This would have helped me to also realize that at the same time that I was focused on closing achievement gaps, so were school districts across the country. And a school district in the school district in which I live, they started to offer every child in the school district free tutoring. So you really can't compete with free, right? So if I had started that, I would have been able to save tons of time and tons of money just by putting the page out there. And honestly, the page, I could make the the visuals through using Canva software, and I have all of that done, so it could still look like a real website. I'm not talking about collecting money from anybody. I'm just saying providing that consultation to them. I could have done it for free, and if I got no bites, it would have cost me $0. If you're thinking about buying and reselling, maybe drop shipping from a wholesaler, you could do the exact same thing. I'm not talking about fraud. I'm talking about putting things out there and seeing if they'll even catch. If you want to sell things on Etsy, you want to start making things and selling them on Etsy, okay, make 1 or 2 of them and then post them and be done with it. However, throwing money into an idea, while great, and while you very well could be the next Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook, there's a cheaper way to start and test your ideas. So anyways, I really thank you for your time, and I hope that this was helpful to you. The takeaway is spend as little to no money as possible. Test out the business that you're hoping to try. See if it catches fire. If it does, great, run with it. If it doesn't, go back to the drawing board, but know that the least amount of money you put forward, the better off you are. I appreciate your time, and as always, this is Dr. Diffins signing off. Bye-bye.